introduce myself. As I said, Joe McGreen. I'm the course coordinator for cybersecurity and ethical hacking, fintech, and AI. So they're the four I support, and then I actually teach cybersecurity and sort of ethical hacking. As you can see, a majority of my background is in teaching. I've been taught in schools, colleges most of my career, and then more recently, full time, I'm now with Vodafone. I work as an advisory manager, initially looking after Africa. And now I've moved across into GRC, looking at sort of the frameworks and that. But I still deliver because I love teaching. So I've never wanted to lose that. I also teach CEH as well, under ITG, IT and governance, which is a sort of a firm. So I do a sort of a bit of ad hoc there. So quite a lot of certifications that I've done, about mainly because I had to be certified in order to train. So that's sort of a background of me. Hopefully, I'm hoping the reason that is just so that if you've got questions and things, I've got quite a wide finger in many different pies and understanding of the sort of the curriculum. Obviously, you can probably just about tell by my accent, I don't live in Ireland. I might be a slight giveaway there. I'm based in the Midlands, so I mainly do the online courses for obvious reasons of where I'm based. I'll close that screen down. Then I'll talk about cybersecurity first. Then I think that's probably the best one to start. So I'll cover both courses off, and I shall do the course content as well. So I'm just going to get up, because although this is ethical hacking, it's probably wise that I do both. I'm just going to get up this handout for. Hopefully that has all the units in. Yep. So this is cybersecurity. So we've got two main courses we run. As I said, cybersecurity, which is probably the entry-level one, and then ethical hacking it's a little bit more than a step up. It's a little bit of a, I suppose, not so much as a leap, but a large step upwards. So cybersecurity basically is for those that have had no immersion whatsoever in cybersecurity or very, very limited. So as a course, as you can see, it's very much going through entry-level cybersecurity. So starting off, what is a threat landscape? What's out there? What do we need to be thinking about? Is the cornerstone of cybersecurity, what I call the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And it's all modular based. So basically, each week is a module, and you'll see the same with ethical hacking. So we've got things like cryptography. I always say to people, that's not maths though, it's just understanding why we use cryptography and the different cryptographic systems we use and why we should use one or the other, and bringing that in. And then obviously going through things like passwords, malware, networking, because of course, I've always said, what is cybersecurity? Well, actually, if you think about it, it's just networking with bells on it, isn't it? Because all we're doing is trying to secure our networks and keep the data from naughty people trying to take it out. So if you want to simplify cybersecurity, it's networking with bells on. But of course, we're going to a lot more sort of depth than that if you sort of go up the, what I call up the stack. And then a little bit into risk management, which is the area I work in. I work in GRC, which is governance, risk and compliance, which ultimately is looking at this. It's the risks, the threats and the vulnerabilities, and trying to find out what is the gap in the business. So I've just done a global gap analysis to look at where we've got gaps within our infrastructure within Vodafone globally, to then build into our framework for our next generation of controls, if you like. So a very, very important part. That's actually where cybersecurity starts, because it starts by identifying the holes, the risks, the Swiss cheese, as I call it. Cybersecurity is all about having a piece of Swiss cheese and you try and make it less holy than it was when you bought it from the shop. However, there is no such thing as 100% security, just like there's no such thing as 100% anonymity. There is always going to be threats, vulnerabilities, holes and exploits. And just because we think we've got ourselves covered, some hacker is going to find a vulnerability in the system, because there's thousands, if not millions, across all these systems, and exploit it. And I call it a little bit sometimes like playing whack-a-mole. And that ultimately is cybersecurity, why it's a very, very, very dynamic area. It never stops and it never will. It'll keep going on. And then pen testing, which is another word for ethical hacking. So that's quite a good one, especially those that decide to move on to that sort of course, because it gives you a little bit more idea. It's more around the business end, if you like, the legal aspects and the paperwork side of it, opposed to actually hacking, because that's another part to it, because there's two parts to ethical hacking, as you'll see when we go on to that. Digital forensics, that's quite a nice week. So learn about why we do digital forensics. I've been involved in that. I've done a bit of work with the police. I'm still a volunteer with my local police force, Derbyshire. I've done cybercrime work, and that involves digital forensics and looking at phones and things like that. Quite an interesting world. Open source, again, another area. I'm a qualified open source investigator, and again, through the police, done quite a few of those over the years, but another interesting area. I often find that people do find these 2 weeks quite interesting, cybersecurity, and sometimes it's an area that they sort of think they want. Often within cybersecurity, pen testing is what most people aspire. Oh, I'm going to be a pen tester. But often when we do a course like this, it's things like digital forensics and open source that start to pique people's interest. Risk management tends to come lower down on the list. But as I said, it's probably the most important part of cybersecurity within the business. And then finally, business continuity and recovery. I take it everybody can see the screen all right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Just sometimes it comes with a line around it hasn't. And then finishing off with compliance, certifications and resources. So that's looking at the compliance of a business. And then also my other world, which was sort of, if you like, after teaching moved into, was the certification industry. So talking about what certs to move on to. Could these courses give you a good educational badge, but sometimes for one reason or another you want to do a cert, or business needs for cert. So that's 12 weeks. So just like ethical hacking, it's a 12-week course, 3 hours per week. The assessment side is slightly different in that you will find the assessments are 10%. It's like quizzes. So not every week, but I think it's 10 in total, if memory serves me right. Like short quizzes that you do, you can either do them all at the end of the course, but it's probably better to do them week by week, and that's 10% of your marks. You then create a journal, an action learning log, which is basically what you've done each week. So you write maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs of what you've done each week, and then finally a written assignment that sort of covers everything off. That's 4,000 words. I often find with a lot of people, the written assignment is difficult because it's what to put in. As in, it can get quite large. So that's how the course is broken down. Grading wise, it's pass, merit and distinction, just the same as all the other courses. And then you'll find that there's different dates. So the dates are staggered out. So the multiple choice quiz is 1 week, and then another week's the action learning log, and then finally the written assignment is not hand everything in all at once. So that's sort of very much cybersecurity as a course. As I said, introduction to cybersecurity, designed a sort of entry level. Any questions with that first course?
No, I'm okay, Jeremy. You seem to have hit all the spots there.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's grand, Joe. Happy enough, Jeremy.
Yeah. Please, as I said, please free to jump in. But yeah, that's, as I said, it's hard when you say entry level because it's everybody's level's different. But that's very much the one where we get to sort of start off with. So that's if you like, an introduction into cybersecurity. Can you see this? I've got a new window that you can see some parroting.
Yeah.
Good. I'm just double checking. So what I'm going to do anyway, so we'll move on to ethical hacking because again, there's a nice overlap. But what I wanted to start with is, let me just try and make that a bit larger. It's just a very, very short, simple, what I call hacking, just to give you an idea of what hacking is. So here I'm using Parrot. I normally use Cali, but my Cali box decided to, as always, just as you decide to do a demo, falls over on me. So I'm using another popular operating system, both Linux. It's called Parrot because of the colors. There's Parrot and Kali. They're the two most popularly used by ethical hacking and pen testing. Both Linux, because a lot of the tools and techniques to hack are actually in Linux. I've then also got another box running in the background called Metasploitable. This is it's on wakey at the moment. There you go. this is just another version of Linux. It's actually a purposely vulnerable Linux box, and it's designed for hacking basically. So it's got vulnerabilities that you can then exploit, because ultimately that's what ethical hacking is all about. It's all about trying to find holes, as I said previously, Swiss cheese, and exploit them. So let's just go out of that. So if we're going to, as I said, do some ethical hacking, what I'm going to do now is very, very short. Any system would see it or hear it without a doubt. It's kind of, I suppose, light up like a Christmas tree on any of the systems you've got for detection, which businesses should have in place. But as I said, it's just a nice entry sort of way in. So what we tend to find is, first of all, if we're going to attack a network or a system, we need to try and see, is that system alive? And we've got the good old ping command. So this is again where, and the reason I'm doing this is, part of ethical hacking is the underpinning knowledge is knowledge of networking, without a doubt. If you've got a basic understanding of networks and how they work, that is going to help tremendously. We do a week on networks, but if you've never touched networks or come across IP addresses, it can be quite an uphill struggle for that. Why? Because a lot of the tools and the techniques are all around network commands using IP addresses. Here we've got good old IP version 4. This is my virtual machine network, 192 network, which means it can have a maximum of 254 devices, because mathematically it's 256, but 2 are actually reserved for broadcasting. So all I'm going to do is use the ping command, and all I'm doing is seeing, is that machine alive? Is it there? Is it able to respond? And that's all that ping command's done. As I said, it's a good old network tool that's been used for many, many years, purely for that reason. You know, if you can't get to a system or you can't find a system, you ping it to see if it's alive. So I'm doing that as my first thing to see, right, I've got a system and I know its IP address, I've already got that. I'm going to see, is it there? And it is. So the next thing I can try is running a little tool called Nmap. And again, we cover this in the course. Nmap is a very, very important tool within ethical hacking, one of those top tools to use. And it's basically a vulnerability scanner, free. Again, that's why a lot of ethical hacking tools are free, especially ones in Linux. As you can see, we've got the IP address of the machine that I've just pinged, so I know it's live, and then I'm using 2 what we call switches. Now in Linux, a switch is basically a command to tell it what to do. This one, I'm running a script to look for information, and then also I'm trying to get the versions out of the system as well, because what I'm trying to do is scan to see, is there any vulnerable applications or sources. So press enter, and obviously that's going to go away and do its thing. Those switches can affect how long or how short the time takes. So while that's running, any questions so far with that?
No, I'm okay.
Good. As I said, this is the
I'm fine.
Brill. What I'm showing you this is just to give you an idea of the sort of the practical side of things that you will be doing and you will learn on the course. So that's why I like to give it with it. Just it gives you an idea of where the level is at, as well as the sort of tools and techniques that you'll learn and go through. So here probably looks like gobbledygook, but if I scroll down, you can see I've got some information. So we've got these numbers, they're ports. Back to knowledge of networking. If you know your ports and your protocols, you can then quickly identify which ones are vulnerable. Obviously, because this is a vulnerable box, we've got 21, which is FTP, file transfer protocol, open. We've got Telnet 23, another one that's open. I guarantee that even secure shell, which is encrypted, it'll be a weak version that we could break. 25, email. So again, this is where your ports and knowledge comes in, which is taught in the course. So if you don't know your ports, it's not a big issue. I start to gather them up and sort of teach you, but it's really good underpinning knowledge for cybersecurity if you're going into the more technical side. That doesn't matter whether it's cyber defense or into ethical hacking, both sides. The more you know about ports and protocols, the easier life will be, because you can see things straight away and you'll go, well, that doesn't look right, that shouldn't be used, that service, that's that port. 53 DNS, that's the one that obviously web addresses come from, because web addresses are only web addresses for the moment we type them in. They then become an IP address, and that whole idea is for that system obviously has the, if you like, the book of all the IP addresses match the name. So we type the name in, and then it goes away and hunts for the actual IP address. Why? Because humans are terrible at remembering numbers, but we're good with words. So that's the whole idea of DNS. Quite a lot of attack vectors around DNS that have developed in the last few years as well. That's 5380. That's the old internet, as I call it, still about HTTP, unencrypted. So anything unencrypted means that we can see it in clear text. It's there. And any traffic that's on anything unencrypted means I can sniff with other tools and devices, and literally 80, for example, I can take passwords. Someone sends a password across a port 80. I could literally just tap in and I'd get the complete password and pull it out the air. So quite dangerous. And then we go on to some more ports down here. I'm not going to go too much into them. SQL, link to databases and things like that. What I want to do with this information, though, is I want to see if there's any vulnerabilities. So if we start at the top, we've got this here, VSFTPD. In this window, I've got another tool running called Metasploit. Funny enough, Metasploit, move that out of the way, that one. Metasploit and Metasploitable go together. So Metasploitable is the vulnerable operating system. Metasploit is a tool. It's a commonly used tool for just basically launching what we call exploits. And exploits, if you like, is basically having a special tool to see if you can get in. You know, maybe a bit like a skeleton key. You know, you've got a window, you've got a door, you want to gain access. Well, you go and look for a tool, and you look for a specific skeleton key, and that skeleton key will then allow you access into that building. That's essentially what we're doing, but we're doing it obviously in the world of cyber. So what I'll do is I'm just going to search for that VSF TPD. I know there's only one. There's one exploit here. You can see it's put it up. Just type in the word use 0 because it's 0 is a number. If there's loads of them, they go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That then takes me into it. I type in show options. And what options are? Options is basically where we decide what we're going to set it up as. So I've only got two options here: remote host, so that's the computer I want to connect to, and the port, which is 21, which is here. We'd only change that if we found this service was running on what we call a non-standard port, so it was running on a different port to the one we expect to find it, but it defaults to 21. So all I've got to do is set our hosts to the IP address of this box here, this machine that I've scanned, it's 192. So it's just set our host 192.168.81.133. So just set it, press enter. That's now set, and I literally can go away and exploit. And now it's running the exploit. So it's firing that exploit off to see if we can gain access. And for whatever reason, it's not worked. So we'll just check everything. 192.168.81.133. Yeah. Show options. That should all work. Let's try run again. Let's try run it, see if it works. It most likely be because I've not used this or set it up. I've got a problem probably with the firewall blocking it. But what should happen, this is the joy of demonstrations and not working as expected, is then it allows me to gain access into that system or that service through that exploit. But part of ethical hacking is sometimes what you think is going to work doesn't work. So I haven't got the time because of the nature of this session. I've been now starting to work. Well, why isn't that working? To me, that looks like a firewall issue. There's something blocking it. There's something called IP tables within Linux systems, and that can block it. just like a firewall, Windows firewall would block it anywhere else. I can obviously, I know I can ping it, so I know I can connect to it. I've got information back from it, so I know it's not the connection, but there's obviously something that's stopping that exploit being able to cross, and it says there's a service on port 6200. We can see what's on 6200. And you can see there's nothing on that system or that service. So it just means that there's a problem with that port, and I'd probably say it was IP tables. So apologies for not quite working as planned, but that often happens. I'm used to that. That's the joys of ethical hacking. But as I said, it wasn't about this being a learning exercise, and it's certainly not about, right, okay, guys, now go away. You've learned it, go away and do it. It's more just to give you a flavor of the sort of things that you'll be doing on the course. So you do use a lot of Linux. We teach you quite a lot of tools, and we teach you quite a lot of techniques. So although Nmap and Metasploit comes later on in the course, it starts to give you what I call a sort of a flavor of the course. In terms of the course content, which is why I don't want to run out of time, let me get up ethical hacking course. So again, like cybersecurity, it's a 12-week course. Obviously starting with an introduction to ethical hacking, what it is, a bit of an overview, why we do it, how we do it. We don't really do any red teaming in here. That is something newer, but I've tried to sort of bring a little bit of red teaming in because it's becoming more and more popular. Red teaming is basically a ninja. A hacker, if you think of a hacker as a pirate, a red teamer is a ninja. They're basically simulating real life attacks. Often external people who don't know the business come to attack it. Very, very good way of gaining, working out how secure a system is and a service, as well as being able to test the business ability, obviously, in terms of its incident response. We do spend quite a lot of time looking at Linux. As I says, it's a cornerstone of ethical hacking, understanding Linux, virtualization. So what I've just shown you, which is hosted on VMware, I'll also show you working through how to set up a virtual machine. We've got Oracle VirtualBox or VMware, they're the two. I've only moved to VMware because I just found it easier to set up than a VirtualBox, but that's part of that first week. Setting up Cali, as I said, Cali is the other operating system. One I've just used is Parrot because my Cali fell over on me. And then we start looking into networking, bit of cryptography. So a couple of weeks on networking, just looking at how networks work. So just pulling it all the way back and doing a bit of a 101, if you like, of network. So what I've shown you, ports and protocols, things to look out for on the network, the different components. So we're looking at switches, routers, very, very briefly, DHCP and all the other components. It is very, very IP version 4 orientated. Those of you that understand or know about IPs, there isn't much scope in this course for IP version 6. There isn't actually that many hacking tools, even though IP version 6 has been around for a number of years. It's still not that immersed in most businesses, so it's only sort of talked about as a light touch. And then we start looking into gaining access into systems, basic and advanced again, sort of going into a little bit more detail of how to break into systems, what to do, what to look for. We'd cover off malware, because most attacks are undertaken via malware, so getting malware onto a system is often what an attacker is trying to achieve through an email, through getting you to click on a malicious link on a website, because ultimately the malware is often what goes onto the system that then, if you like, allows a foothold. And from there, with that foothold, we can either ransomware, which is encrypt all the data, or we can obviously start to try and feel our way around that network. When you look at incidents, I don't know if anyone's ever seen an incident or incident report. It's quite amazing when it's all detailed, how the attacker got in and then how they pivoted through the network. I've seen a couple Chinese ones. Chinese tend to be quite noisy. The Russians are very quiet. They're very quiet when they overall when they break in. Quite sneaky, but Chinese tend to be a bit more noisy. But they have maintained persistence in networks. Well, the instance, particular instance I was involved with last year, they'd been in the net. It was a third party, and they'd been in the network nearly 2 years. 2 years they've been on that system undetected. So it's that reason you need good ethical hackers to find those vulnerabilities and those pinch points before somebody else does, because that's what, again, back to what I said about playing whack-a-mole. And then obviously we're looking at different ways of exploiting, getting in. Metasploit is an exploitation tool, because we can put obviously an exploit onto a system to gain a foothold. We could use some coding to basically make use of vulnerability once we've found that vulnerability. So that's why we go through the hacking phases, you know, the scanning phase, and that, if you like, that open source phase. And as I've always said, one of the big things hackers have that a lot of pen testers don't have is they have all the time in the world to get that out there on Google and do all their very sort of social engineering and scanning for information, job boards. And it's amazing what information you can get about a business, but people just don't realize what they're giving away. And that's often how hacks start, because they gain some piece of information if it's not so targeted. So that's again part of the course, going through that. Website hacking, again, we look at 3 hours. It's quite a light touch, because it's just penetration testing, ethical hacking is a massive field. So in 12 weeks, all we do is we set all the foundations and give you all the groundwork, go through lots of tools and give you that first, what I call that first phase. At the end of the course, you're not then going to, you know, walk out and say, right, I'm a pen tester. No, you've just started your journey. You've got all the tools and the techniques and information. It's the same when I teach Certified Ethical Hacker CEH. That course is the same. It's just an introduction. Very much you build on that through your own learnings. And there's some fantastic sites out there, Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. They're two of the best learning tools out there to sort of really get to know your tools and your techniques. So this course again just gives you all that theory and understanding, and then introduces a lot of those tools. And looking at web application hacking, that's massively on the rise, good old APIs. And then finally we finish off with penetration testing stages, which is very much just, you know, how do we go through the process of penetration testing? What should we do? I'll sort of finish it off. Assignment wise, it's one assignment, 6,000 words, which covers all of this topic. One of the big problems a lot of people have is keeping it to 6,000 words, for no other reason than you've done that much, you've done quite a lot of labs and you've got lots of information. I always say put lots of screenshots in and things like that into it. It is a very interesting course. Technically, yes, it is challenging. So it depends on where your technicalities are. Very much is sort of where your starting point, or how difficult you find the course is. General geographics, well, I've had people who've come from IT support, I've had people that have come off the cybersecurity course, I've had people that come off of the sort of risk management. I even had someone who literally was a painter and decorator. They'd done cybersecurity course and then they come on this course. It was quite a leap for them. They're quite a steep learning curve, but you know, they stuck with it and they learned a lot. So, you know, that's sort of what I will say about the course. It's a challenge if you like a challenge, depending where you're at. That sort of covers me off, which is about right, because obviously what I wanted to do then is give you a chance to ask questions and probe and give any thoughts for the last 10 minutes, or if there's anything else you want to run past me. Over to you guys.
No, I'm okay, Jeremy. You pretty explained it very, very well. Very good. Yeah, you did well. So,
is it something you want to do then?
Yeah, I'd be interested in it, but the cybersecurity one would be interesting me as well. So I have a bit of an IT background, but yeah, both courses, both modules that you're after explaining is actually quite interesting. So I'll have to think over the next 2 or 3 days, you know, what I'd actually like to do, or maybe doing the cybersecurity and then going on to do the ethical hacking. That is an option.
Yes, and if you've not had much immersion in cybersecurity, I advise going to the cybersecurity, because what that will do is give you all that nice broad understanding. If you jump into ethical hacking, you've not done that much, you might find it quite a leap. So yeah, I've always said that as a consideration. So
Yeah, so I'm a bit of networking, but I'm CCNA sort of certified. So
that is fantastic, because that's basically what I always say. If you've got something like CCNA, Network Plus, that's actually all you need, really, entry level for ethical hacking, in all honesty,
all right,
network wise. So if you've got that sort of level, that then again points you towards ethical hacking. So I think you're sort of 50-50, but
yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah, you explained it very well. So I'll sit and have a think about it in the next day or two.
yes.
Definitely make a decision, you know.
That's fine. Well, as I said, I teach on Oath, and then there's Jan and Stephen. Stephen's the other person who teaches on ethical hacking. So you've got a fantastic training team for all the courses, and we all sort of bring different, I suppose, different life experiences and knowledge.
But that's always good. That's always good. Keeps it interesting.
It does, and they are all of them are. They're yeah, very, very professional, and make it informative and interesting. Because I've always said, if I don't find it interesting and I've got to deliver it for 3 hours, then how are you guys going to find it interesting?
That's true.
That's why, certainly with ethical hacking, it's a good point, actually. I always try and mix it up so that you do some practical as well as theory. I do not do 3 hours of death by PowerPoint. I'll show you videos, we'll do breakout sessions, you'll do practicals, because there's nothing worse than just sitting there for 3 hours listening to me going blah, 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 because it's not effective learning.
Yeah,
You're not going to take it in.
You can, your mind can go off a bit with
Yeah.
3 hours of theory. So it's actually, I actually like the half and half. That's quite good.
Yes, and that's how all the courses are. And we brought some more practical elements into it as well, and trying to get you to work as a team as well, so that you get to know your fellow the people on your course, so that you can interact as well.
Yeah, fellow networking is always very, very good.
It is, and there's some really interesting people on these courses that are really useful networking people to know.
That's good, Jeremy. I don't think I have any more questions for you, Jeremy. I think
that's all right. No, that's all right. Anyone else? I know there are. You joined us a little bit later. Have you got any questions?
No, sorry about that. No, I'm all right. I'm just gonna get an overview.
Yeah, is there anything you missed? Because as I said, I know you joined a bit later, so this video will be recorded. So
yeah, no, I was in, but I got kicked out and I had to join back again.
Oh, the joys of Zoom. Yeah, I've only ever had that once in the middle of a course, been kicked out of Zoom, and everyone goes, "Where's he gone?" And I had to come back in again. But yeah, you can't beat technology.
I know, yeah.
Anything from Niall or Mark?
Yeah, it was very informative. I enjoyed it, and again, probably joining in at ethical hacking is I probably have to do a tiny bit of research into networking and stuff like that first before I jump into this. Again, the way you broke it down, and again, that probably would be one of my weaknesses.
Yeah,
as far as getting into systems and stuff like that, and exploits and things like that. I understand all of that. Again, as I said, my weakness would be on networking. So again,
but don't if you, as long as you can understand it, that knowledge we can build into the course. And as I say to all of you, if you are seriously thinking of doing this course, have a look at Try Hack Me. I use it a lot in the course for no other reason, and there's lots of free resources on there. You can pay to subscribe.
And yeah, I'm so used to using freeware and anyway, so again, and it's real good, you know.
Yes, it is, and I'm all like that. I'll always point you in the direction of free resources wherever possible.
Yeah.
There's lots out there. Professor Messer, he does a lot of networking resources, videos. So he does a lot of the CompTIA stuff. His website, professormesser.com, and you can go through the networking course completely, or you can just pick bits of it out. So there's lots of resources out there, Mark, that if you didn't feel that there's enough to warrant doing the cybersecurity course because there's no networking in it and you're just missing networking, there's a lot of resources I can pull you around and point you at and underpin what you're missing. So never fear.
All right, cheers. Thanks very much.
That's all right. Welcome.
Niall.
Yeah, hi Jeremy. No,
How are you there?
I have no real questions there now. The ethical hacking would seem a bit far advanced for me now at the minute. I think I'd be more the cybersecurity side of things, and then see how we go from there. I'd be coming more, say, from a kind of fraud prevention kind of background.
Oh, interesting.
Websites and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of had an interest in maybe doing something about cybersecurity to try and get into that field of expertise. Might help me in my job.
It will most certainly. I guarantee it. And with your fraud stuff, it's a growth area within cyber. So yeah, cybersecurity probably would then help you and underpin you, and you can always come and do ethical hacking later anyway once you've done that, if you so decided.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much.
That's all right. You're welcome. Brilliant. Well, as I said, if there's no further questions, I'll sort of close it down at there. Obviously, if you've got any other questions or pointers, you can go through the operations team. If there's any other further course questions or resources or other information you can need, again, feel free to go through the operations team, because they will just come to me and ask me questions. So, you know, I'm always happy to help where I can and give advice where I can. So even after today, it doesn't mean that you can't have contact if you need any further advice or guidance, or if you needed a further call or anything. I'm always happy to arrange that, because that's obviously my job, really. So thank you very much for joining.
Great, thanks
all right,
very much,
and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, bye now.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Thanks.